Hi, I'm the nerdy Nifty Nana, and today I'm going to talk about this book called Forest Baby, written by Laurie Elmquist, pictures, illustrations by Shantella Robinson. This was published in 2018 by Orca Books. It is intended for babies ages 1 to 3, and I include this book as being under the heading of promoting critical thinking skills, because it is basically a book about observation, and in particular using one's senses to make observations. So this is very age appropriate to young children. It is the way young children observe and learn, and using one's senses and observing through one's senses is something that comes naturally to babies. It's not something you need to teach per se, but at the same time, observation skills are notoriously faulty and flawed in humans, and so I think anything we do to encourage, promote, and practice those observation skills is going to be good for us. So Forest Baby is a board book, so it's very nice and sturdy pages. It's basically the story of a mom and a baby going for a walk in the forest, and the perception, it's the mother talking to the baby. So over my shoulder you peer at the world. So she's talking to her baby, and she's describing how the baby is perceiving the world using the baby's senses. So the focus, the emphasis is definitely on visuals. Most of the sensory information from the book is about what the baby sees. And I guess that's kind of understandable. It is a very popular sense, you might say. There's a little bit about the sense of touch. Here's, for example, is an image of the baby and the mom reaching out. They're feeling the wind. They're feeling the moisture in the wind because it's coming off the water. There's another page that talks about feeling the sun on the baby's skin. So that's a sense of touch again. There's one page that talks about the sense of listening, and that's the sound of the mom's footsteps walking through the forest. I'd like to have seen more. There's so much in terms of the sounds of the forest when you're going for a walk, between the sounds of insects, the sounds of birds, the wind, the rustling of the leaves, the sound of water. There's so much that could be said about that sense, and it's mostly missing from this book. There's also nothing about the sense of smell, and that's another sense that's really used a lot when you go through for a walk in the forest. There's so much to smell in terms of the the smell of the earth, the smell of flowers, the smell of seaweed. There's a lot of smells down at the shoreline. So it's just, and you can't draw a smell, but you can draw the source of the smell. And it's missing from the book. So I'd like to see more of that. And if any of you out there know of books that cover all the senses really well for babies and toddlers, I'd like to hear from you, because I'm certainly looking for books like that. This book, I've read some of the online reviews of the book, and some of the criticisms are one of them is that the language is a little sophisticated for babies. I don't mind the odd big word or unusual word, I guess you could say, being used in a baby's book, but I did find some of the phrasing to be a little bit awkward. So here's an example: reach to leafy maples with winged seeds. Now it comes right after this page. Over my shoulder you peer at the world, reach to leafy maples with winged seeds. But it's just, to me, it's a little awkward for a small baby. It's even hard for an adult to wrap your mind around this. Never mind a little baby. So yeah, I think it's true, but I also do find the prose to be very lyrical, and it seems rhythmic. It seems to go along with the what you could imagine the pace of walking in the forest. And so I think it's good. I'm okay with the prose overall. In terms of illustrations, one of the criticisms I've heard is that the perspective is always changing, and that might be confusing to toddlers. And it's true, the perspective is, sometimes if you want to imagine this, a camera, sometimes it's high up in the trees, sometimes it's low down on the ground looking up, sometimes it's behind the baby. So there's all these different perspectives, and it of course is visually more interesting that way. But I would like to have seen maybe a little bit more showing what the baby might actually be seeing, because this is a book that is written as if the mother is talking to the baby. So I would like to have seen some pictures like this one, showing from what the baby is actually experiencing, what the baby is seeing. Another criticism I have is that I think there's a little bit of ambiguity around what is the season exactly. Some of the imagery, it seems very obvious that it is autumn. So here's a couple. But in other images, it seems that there's no autumn colors. So it's a little unclear. Well, what season is this? It appears almost to be changing as we go through the book. So it's a little bit unclear in that respect. I like this book. I often select it for my grandson. I bought it for him. He was 18 months when I first bought it. He's 2 years old now. I'm still reading it to him and selecting it for him. It's not his favorite book. He doesn't choose it. He doesn't ask for it. But because I like it, and I think in a way, I feel almost like this book was written more for the adult who's doing the reading. And maybe that's not a bad thing, because when children are small and they're not the ones asking for the books and you're picking them, it's really important that the adult like the book. And I do like this book. I like the gentleness of it. I like the sweetness of it. I like, it's just basically a very warm book about a mother and child walking through the woods and enjoying the forest.